China is massive in every way. In terms of land size, China is the third largest nation in the world behind Russia and Canada, spanning for more than 9.7 million square kilometers or 3.7 million square miles. Same with the population, it ranks second with 1.41 billion people, ranking just behind India. And with the giant economy of $19.2 trillion, it ranks second just behind the US. So yes, China is massive in every way. And on top of that, China has border disputes with a lot of its neighbors, and by shrinking, it's not like China has lost all those disputed land. All of a sudden, that's not what's going on. It's not China's land that's shrinking, and it's not even the economy. It ranks second in the entire world with the GDP graph looking like this. It's not shrinking in its economy either. Actually, China is shrinking in its population exponentially. China has always had a massive population, and in 2022, it reached its pinnacle on 1.41 billion. But exactly after that point, the graph started going downwards. There are more deaths than births in China, which has made the population to start declining. As of now, China is one of the few nations where the population growth rate is on the negative. Right now, it's on minus 0.02%, which is expected to drop down to minus 0.17% in 2030 and even down to minus 0.63% until 2050. If it goes on like this, the population of China is projected to shrink in almost half at the end of the century. And recently in April 2023, India surpassed China as the nation with the largest population. And it looks like China will never get that first position back in coming decades or even century. So why is China's population shrinking? Short answer for that, its growth and its policies. Between 1958 and 1961, the Great Chinese Famine, known as the deadliest famine in human history, caused around 40 million deaths. It was of course an extreme decline in China's population, but as the famine ended, China's birth rate skyrocketed, which the government saw as another problem. So to combat this accelerated population growth, they started implementing policies that involved the measures like sterilization, abortion, and education for couples to promote them to have fewer kids. And this worked a lot to control China's population, but China would go even deep. Here comes the one-child policy, which Beijing implemented in 1980, limiting couples to have only one child. And as the couples could only have one child, it obviously controlled the population growth a lot. But soon, this policy would become one of the biggest factors contributing to this decline China is facing right now. Fertility rate of 2.1%, also known as the replacement rate. This is what a country would need for the population to be stable, not considering other factors like migration. This means 2 children would replace 2 parents in terms of number in population to make it stable. With the one-child policy that China had, the fertility rate was forcefully made to stay around 1%. So the population growth rate plummeted. China has had a fertility rate below 2% since 1991, and as of now, it's just around 1.2%. Meaning China has been having the fertility rate severely below the replacement rate for over 3 decades. With this serious note, China finally ended the one-child policy back in 2015, and as of now in 2023, couples in China can have 3 children at max. But even though Chinese couples now can have multiple children, the population growth rate hasn't changed much. The reason, this is the population pyramid of China showing the population on different age groups. This is what it looks for the US, this is what it looks for Nigeria, the most populated nation in Africa, and this is what it looks for India, the most populated in the entire world. Getting back to China, the younger population of China is down here and the older ones are up here, and you can see it's wider at the top and narrow at the bottom, meaning there are more older people in China than the younger ones. And although it's kind of a good indication that the country has developed really good in its healthcare and the other infrastructures as well, but it is a slight problem, as this also means that there are fewer younger people to be in the nation's massive manufacturing workforce and to even care and help the big aging population, which is extremely difficult for the youngsters as China is still a middle-income country. And on top of that, more than 70% of Chinese live in urban areas where they're facing really high living and education costs. with skyrocketing property prices, higher job competition, and fewer job opportunities. So this has made young Chinese couples very hard and expensive to care for the elders, as well as to even raise one child, let alone more. So they're not choosing to have more children, which is the reason for the fertility rate to still be super low. Even though it's almost gonna be a decade of China officially ending the one-child policy. And with all this, the population pyramid of China might look like this in 2050, which can be more problematic for China than now. This type of population decline isn't just a case for China. Many Asian and European nations have been suffering from it, but many of those nations solve this problem by promoting immigration. Even the US has the fertility rate of way below 2.1%, but the population is still growing. The reason is the immigration into the US. In case of China though, its language and its government can be a little repellent for the people all around the globe, but China itself is extremely resistant to immigration, which China thinks can impact its culture and social norms. So there isn't any external factor that can actually combat China's population decline. So China does need to come up with really efficient policies to accelerate the population growth before it's too late. This massive decline in population growth is probably China's major concern right now, because China's economy is totally defined by the size of its population. China is the manufacturing hub of the entire globe, and the population is the main reason that the economy is almost worth $20 trillion. And if this population declines massively, so does the economy, which can completely redefine China.